This is Marketing Fundamentals with Bob. Topic 7, business marketing. Well, business marketing, aka B2B marketing, and that is to say the marketing of goods and services to individuals or organizations for uses other than personal consumption. Now the issue here is, what's the intended use? It is who bought it, why did they buy it, as opposed to what did they buy. So an example, a guy walks into a small grocery store and buys a couple of jars of mustard. Consumer good or business good? You would say consumer good. But what if he's buying it for his hot dog cart outside? Well, that would then be a business good. Now that's a trivial example, which gives an example of how the same item could be both a business good or a consumer good, but this is trivial. It would have nothing to do to affect your channel management of that store. It's sort of like going into Office Depot. I suppose in Office Depot there are a number of people going in buying stuff to take home. There are other people buying stuff to take back to their office. So there's some consumer goods, some business goods. It has absolutely no impact whatsoever on how I manage that account and manage the store. Now, there could be a legitimate example, however, when there are some differences. Let's say we've got a mailbox manufacturer which sells direct to consumers online, consumer good, and also may sell to contractors through a wholesaler. Okay, that's now a business good, and there's a legitimate distinction, and there's implications for your channel management. But here, remember this though. If you sell through channel intermediaries and not direct to the ultimate consumer, you are B2B. And the final intermediary is the one that's B2C, business to consumer. So as we went through early on here, your job is to help them serve their customers, and you're dealing with all the channel members that you deal with, all your suppliers, in a spirit of strategic alliance and partnership. So let's take a glance at what are some of the categories we deal with of business customers. We've got producers or OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. These are the folks that manufacture products or provide services that are used by business customers. So an example of this one could be Procter & Gamble, that is making products that are sold through retailers like, say, Winn-Dixie. Resellers, they don't make anything. What resellers do is they buy finished goods. They may sell it to the final consumer or to other business customers, wholesalers who sell to the ultimate, the retailer who then goes to the consumer. So it can go either way with that. So I may have, and we'll talk about this, in some companies, smaller companies, I in addition maybe use brokers in lieu of my own sales force. So I'm using brokers who may go through a wholesaler who's a reseller, who then sells to the retailer, who then sells the ultimate consumer, or that wholesaler may just go straight, the broker may go straight to the retailer. So there's a number of different ways we can do that. We'll look at that when we get on to channel management. What happens also in this, there can be some variability company to company. A lot of larger companies are going to go straight to the retailers for their big accounts, but they'll go through wholesalers on small accounts. Procter & Gamble does this. They have their sales force calling on the big stores, but on the little stores, they're not going to go in and merchandise the product. They're going to go just through the wholesalers. We then have the category here of governments and institutions, schools, healthcare facilities, public support organizations, public services. We're going to get into a lot more of that in topic 8. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these government institutional things, universities, for example, are often perceived as having objectives other than market share, profit, return on investment, but some of them really do, and all of them really do. Come on, you got to think like a business. The university, when the university is thinking of building a new college of business or building a new dormitory, it's looking at return on investment. This is what we're putting out, this is what we're going to get back from it. So you can be a nonprofit, but you're still thinking profit, you're still thinking return on investment. By the way, think of yourself as a potential student going out there. You're a product. When you're looking at a job, the employer is asking, what are we going to get on your, as a return on the investment we make in you? If they're paying you $40,000 a year, double it. It costs them $80 by the time they get through benefits, fixed costs to keep you. You got to go into that job interview ready to tell them that you hire me and I will return to you $80,000 in increased profits, reduced costs to justify what your position is there. And be thinking about that when you go into a potential organization of what I can do for you. Now, there's a very, very helpful prospecting system we have in getting in the business market, and that is the NAICS system, North American Internet Industry Classification System. Now, here's what it is for us. It's a numbering system. Developed for NAFTA, and what it does is it classifies businesses by their predominant economic activity, though a lot of these businesses can and often do get involved in other business activities. It replaced the antiquated SIC, Standard Industrial Classification Code, from the 1930s. Can you imagine getting into 1980 with a classification system developed in the 1930s? It was totally antiquated. And it's a zip code. It's like a zip code. If you got the first 2 digits, it's a very broad basis of companies. And here's a good example for you to look at it. You get into the 6 digits, now I've got very, very specific types of organizations. So what it helps me do is identify firms that might be potential customers for my products and services. Very, very useful prospecting tool, folks. Back in the old days, what you used to do in prospecting, you used to do what's called smokestacking. You drive into a town, if you saw some smokestacks up there, well, they must make something, I think I'll call on them. In today's service-based economy, they don't have a smokestack. They may only have a very small office, but might be a good potential customer for you. Yeah, tell you what, if you're doing business with a firm which has the same first 4 or 5 digits of the NAICS code, then they're very likely going to be a prospect for you if they're the similar kinds of codes. And today, you don't spend time going to the library. You can do it basically with Salesforce automation software. You can find companies with similar NAICS codes, county by county. Then you go online, you can find out who the decision makers are, where they are, and all that. So it's a very, very handy prospecting tool to find like companies for yourself. We have then in the business market certain ways of looking at demand, which is different than you might see in the consumer market. So some considerations in this, we have derived demand. And derived demand is pretty simple. It says the demand for consumer products drives the demand for business products. So computer sales go up, sales of chips go up. Beer sales go up. We sell more bottles and cans. Meat sales go up. Polywrap increases its sales. Inelastic demand, you dealt with this back in your econ course. Basically, the concept of inelastic demand says that price goes up, sales don't get influenced all that much. The consumer example that you might be more familiar with, insulin. Well, if the price of insulin doubles, what happens to the sale of insulin? Doesn't change much at all. We use the term inelastic demand a little bit differently in a business context. Basically, we classify an item as inelastic when it comprises a very small percentage of total product cost. So sheet steel for cars is elastic demand, because if sheet steel doubles in price somehow, that's going to dramatically affect the price of cars, and car sales are going to go down. Flip side, wiper blades. Well, the cost of wiper blades could double. That is probably not going to affect the price of cars at all, so it will be considered inelastic in its demand. Flip side of that now, how about the aftermarket? If the price of wiper blades doubles at AutoZone and someone goes into AutoZone to get replacement wiper blades and sees the price has doubled, they may just decide, I think we can clean these others off for a while. So you might see elastic demand in the aftermarket in that case. Mold inhibitor in paint, same sort of situation. In the Southeast, yeah, you want to have mold inhibitor in your paint. It's like a dime a gallon. If the price triples to 30 cents a gallon, might not even affect the price of paint. It certainly is not going to affect the sales of paint. Joint demand, a little bit different than this. Joint demand is a 1-to-1 ratio or a 6-to-1 ratio, an exact ratio of things, soup cans and labels. For every soup can, I got 1 label. Desks and drawer handles. For every desk I sell, I got 6 drawer handles, an exact ratio back and forth. Fluctuating demand, also known as the multiplier effect, the accelerator principle, example of this one, like right after 9/11, You got a 20% drop in air travel among business travelers. Okay, 20% drop in that. What does that do to the profitability for the airlines? Well, 20% off the top of business travel takes their profitability close to zero. And what does that do to the sales of new planes? They're gone. That's all that. It just it's sort of snowballing. Things just keep going, getting worse and worse and worse as they go down the line on that. Some quick notes here on the business market, folks. These are often big dollar sales that take a lot of time to cultivate. For a sales rep, this is where the big bucks are. And where the sales rep has got to be a competent, knowledgeable, expert consultant and helper that brings business building ideas to their prospect. And when you're going to the prospect, you don't just walk in with the same old line. Think a little. Be innovative. Come up with some innovation. Reciprocity. Basically, on reciprocity, you buy from people that buy from you. I got a staffing company and going to an insurance agency. Well, you're hiring our people. We're getting our insurance from you. Certainly, we're going to do business with each other. Barter. Hey, barter. Trade products and services. You find a lot of metro areas, including Pensacola, that have specific societies of people that are interested in forming barter-type relationships. That might work for you. It's a very simple thing to be able to do something like that. When I was doing, a few years back here, training people who are selling advertising in the college phone books, these guys paid nothing for air travel. They bartered it. They basically went to US Air and some of these other companies and said, hey, tell you what, we can do advertising in all these phone books and publications for you. Don't pay us a thing. We'll take it all out in air travel at non-peak times. Everybody wins. You got an attorney. Attorney's up there, he needs to get his house painted. You got a house painter. He needs to get some legal services. Hey, that'll work. You paint my house, I'll do the legal services for you. Think about that as some opportunity in your business. How about leasing? Now, leasing, you think about leasing heavy equipment that you don't need all that time, but you can be very innovative about this. I have another colleague in Atlanta who's in the carpeting business. They lease the carpeting. You don't have to buy the carpeting with a huge capital outlay. No, we'll lease it to you. You make a monthly payment every month for 10 years. And once a year, they come in and clean the carpet. After 10 years, they take it up and put in new. So you're going to a business and they don't have to have this huge upfront expense. They can pay it off as a monthly payment. Might be an opportunity to get it done. Let's look now at some of the categories of business products. And within them, the first and the biggest of all are major equipment, also known as installations. And that we're talking expensive capital goods that are going to last a long time. So buying heavy equipment, building an office building, that would be a very serious expense that you're going to have to do some thinking about. Accessory equipment, less expensive, but still significant goods with a shorter lifespan. Buying a personal computer, copy machine, or something like this. Tax implications on this. Installations, you have to take a longer time to deduct their expense, like 10 years or so. Accessory equipment, you have to take 3 years for it. So they're not going to let you take all the deduction in the 1 year. You're going to have to spread that thing out. Then we got raw materials, unprocessed, often agricultural products. So I got fresh tomatoes coming into Heinz. I've got a barge full of iron ore going down to a steel mill down in Gary. Component parts, finished items that become part of the final product. Hey, you got a lawnmower? Take a look at what the engine is in that lawnmower. I bet you it's a Briggs & Stratton. Here again, outsourcing, folks. I'm a manufacturer of lawnmowers. I don't want to get in the business of building engines. It's a whole lot easier for me to outsource that, take a Briggs & Stratton engine as a component part, put it on the lawnmower. I don't have to build it myself. It's like going back to my wiper blades thing. I'm pretty confident that General Motors is not in the wiper blade business. It's a component part. They bring it in from an outsourced person and bring it into the final product. Process materials, these have had some processing. They're going to be used in the manufacturing of the final product. So office, basically something like this, high fructose corn syrup, which is liquid corn sugar going to Coca-Cola bottlers. Here again, interesting little thing about this. on processed materials. Back in the days, the old days in Coca-Cola, you have to be really old to remember the days that Coca-Cola had syrup trucks that looked like gasoline trucks, drove all across the country. They made the syrup in Atlanta. They then transported the syrup to bottlers all across the country, and the bottlers then just basically added carbonated water to it, and they had the product. That's not terribly efficient, transporting all that stuff all across the country. Now they do concentrate, which Pepsi always did. Take the concentrate in 55-gallon drums, and then you have the processed materials, the high fructose corn syrup, which is delivered locally to the Coca-Cola bottler. Huge savings in transportation costs for what's a commodity product at that point. Another processed material, come back to sheet steel again, sheet steel for General Motors. Processed sheet steel, General Motors is going to take in the sheet steel, bend it into fenders. Supplies, basically consumables that do not become part of the final product. So I've got the office supplies on this, cleaning materials, sandpaper, lubricating oil, stuff like that. Last and not least, business services. This, by the way, may be one of your great opportunities for getting a job in the marketplace here. Your business services, consider outsourcing those. So I've got temporary and permanent staff. Let's say you're in a business that you have peak businesses, say, for 6 weeks a year, 2 weeks times 3. Why do you hire a full-time employee for that? Outsource that to an outsourced service. But other things, IT, data services, legal, insurance, 401k programs, accounting, et cetera, as possibilities for basically using outsourced business products. And last but not least, let's look at some of the buying situations we face in the business market. New buy, I get a new need, I'm buying a product or service for the very first time, so I might be getting into new computers that actually will convert spoken word to text. That's pretty interesting. A small business owner, here again, might decide to outsource their accounting or payroll functions. Modified rebuy, next level down there. Modest change in the specifications from a current supplier, or I'm buying the same thing from a new supplier. So I'm going out and I'm buying 3 or 4 PCs every year from Office Depot. They're not exactly the same, but it's 3 PCs from Office Depot. Or I've got Publix gets a new vendor for their self-service checkout lane. Locally here, I spoke to the manager of the Publix at University 9 Mile about their self-service checkout lane. It's not quite as convenient to use as the one at Winn-Dixie. And I really suggested, hey, go down to Winn-Dixie, check out their self-service checkout lane. Whole lot easier to use, whole lot less hassle. It's simple enough. That's a basic modified rebuy. Basically, they fire their current supplier, bring in somebody else, put in the self-service check lane. And then we got the last one, straight rebuy. That's just you're buying low involvement reordering of same things, the same vendor. So our office manager, she just orders out 4 boxes of copy paper from the same vendor, same deal, exactly the same thing every time. So that's topic 7. And this is Marketing Fundamentals with Bob.